Why does this giant night elf tower overlook the ocean like it's guarding something, but somehow no one knows why it's really there? Welcome to Kalimdor, a continent full of places that feel like Blizzard opened a dev file, got distracted by a sandwich, and just forgot to finish it. These aren't random cliffs or bug trees. These are zones that feel important but lead to absolutely nothing. And that's what really gets me. So here are some of the places that somehow feel unfinished. If you ever swam out of Dry Whisper Gorge toward Theramore, you might spot a small tropical island called Alcaz Island. It's in plain sight, yet legendary for being a no-go zone. Why? Because it's packed with elites, and one of them is uncannily tough. Legend says that Varian Rin was kept prisoner here by the Defias Brotherhood. The lore is backed by dungeon files and older storytelling. Even if the game never really let you bust him out, in actual gameplay, you could only go if you swam, died, or were brave enough. However, there was one group quest called I See Alcaz Island in Your Future, sent players to the island to gather blood kelp from Strashaz Naga, a real in-game nod to its hidden nature. Later in patch 1.9, beyond your vintage classic window, Dr. Weevil took over the prison, replacing Varian with his robotic entourage, but that's not part of classic lore. So, Alcaz is not a place Blizzard forgot. It's more like a story they teased, but never finished. A locked door with nothing but echoes of what might have been. If you're wandering through Feralas, keep an eye on the low-hanging canopy. Above it loom two massive mesas known as the Twin Colossals, rising abruptly from the forest floor. They're real landmarks, one of the most visually striking in Azeroth. These mountains are more than scenery. They're part of the zone's subzone structure. One walkway, the road that leads between Feralas and Desolace, actually runs through the gap between them. So you're literally walking through the mouth of two ancient giants that don't seem to belong in any quest storyline. At the base of the Western Colossal, you'll find a night elf named Marley Wishrunner. If you chat with her, she offers to teleport you to the top of the Eastern Colossal. Yes, only one. When you arrive at the summit, you're rewarded with an epic view and a surprise meet and greet with a night elf vendor named Kaylin Windflight, who sells parachutes for 20 silver each so you don't splat on the way down. The parachute mechanic is memorable. It only lasts a few seconds. If you open it too early, you'll hit the ground halfway and die. Many a first-time visitor fell victim to that logic trap. Rumor was that Marley and Kaylin were in on the joke, waiting to sell you down to your demise. None of this is tied to quests or dragons or expansion stories. The Twin Colossals are purely natural landmarks, a mix of beautiful, unexplained, and oddly inviting. They inspire awe, and the way they intersect with game mechanics makes them feel like a deliberate curiosity left in the world for explorers to find. You know Akshara, that eerie, autumn-colored zone northeast of Ashenvale? Most players stick to the roads or the coastline. Few ever wander to the tip of the peninsula where an abandoned tower stands, perched on cliffs above stormy seas. This is the Tower of Eldara. It's real, has zero questline and no NPCs. Just a tall, sealed ruin that quietly complicates the zone's map without ever serving a purpose. Lore-wise is described as part of the ancient night elf civilization that once ruled Azshara before the Sundering. Its purpose? Unknown. It's officially closed and abandoned in Classic. There's one tiny lore event tied to it, but not in Classic. During the Third War, a later timeline, a character named Phaloem attempted to open the tower, but failed. That's it. A single lore footnote hanging over a structure that remains mysterious. In essence, the Tower of Eldara is arguably Azshara's most enigmatic landmark. A crumbling relic from pre-shattering highborn glory, dangling in isolation above the ocean. Players pass it by, and devs never added purpose. Yet its presence lingers like a question mark etched in stone. If you've ever wandered into a place and thought, wait, what is this doing here? You're not alone. Like the video and subscribe if you love weird, forgotten corners of the game. You know Thousand Needles as a massive, dry canyon filled with towering mesas located in southern Kalimdor. But tucked away in the shimmering flats, there's a real, built Silithid hive, not connected to any quests, just weirdly unexplained. According to data, this hive is located in the Rustmaw dig site. Inside, you face Silithid hive drones, annoying bugs that drop cracked Silithid carapaces, Silithid heart, Silithid talons, and intact Silithid carapace. These drops are tied to the Horde quest chain involving parts of the Swarm, where players gather bug parts for Karan, the handler in the Barrens. So yes, the hive is part of the game, but there's no lore introduction that explains why there's a Silithid hive here, miles from the main brood in Silithus. Lore typically ties Silithid to the old god threat in Silithus and the AQ gates. Seeing a hive buried high in Thousand Needles, northwest of Silithus, is jarring. There's no NPC dialogue that warns you, no reasoning to how they tunneled into this zone, and no story reason listed in-game. In fact, players discovered this hive more by accident than design. So, it stands as a real custom-built serving only as a bug farm. You travel there, kill bugs for quest items, and leave. No narrative, just creepy bug corridors around a dig site that was never explained. If you're questing in Ashenvale and wander southwest of Astranar, you might catch sight of a small island in the middle of a lake. That's the ruins of Stardust. Quiet, odd, and unforgettable. This is a night elf observation or shrine site, swallowed by Felwood's corruption. The water is a sickly yellow-green, and bog beasts roam freely, corrupted by demonic rot from nearby zones. Yet among the decay, you'll find Stardust shrubs that are completely unharmed. These shrubs are special. Players can gather handfuls of Stardust from them, used in a classic quest, the Ruins of Stardust, where you bring 5 handfuls of Stardust to Peltura's White Moon in Astranar to cure a sick child. It's a small, beautiful moment surrounded by decay. Despite this, there's no quest that brings you there automatically. You only go if you've seen its name or followed this specific side quest. And once you're there, this place feels half-built, full of lore, hinting at purity and healing, but barely built out in-game. Players stumble on it, get their dust, and leave. Yet, the contrast between corruption and untouched nature makes it linger in memory. Mount Hyjal looks out of bounds, but if you ever broke through the wall of trees and invisible terrain, you'd find absolutely nothing, well, almost nothing. Behind a jagged, glitchable opening near the summit lies a pair of crypt corridors and stone arches. These are unused crypt areas, identical to what you'll later encounter in the Mount Hyjal raid, but they're just quiet, untouched geometry in Classic. Players in forums recall glimpses of hidden buildings, undead architecture, and unexplained corridors, ghost zones never meant for public release. These crypts stand as ghostly placeholders, an ambitious design idea Blizzard built but didn't finish in Classic. There's no lore text, just cold, empty tombs pointing to a scrapped narrative, maybe tied to Hyjal's defense or the Scourge invasion. All that remains are walls, stairs, and the faint echoes of a raid that came later. I wish I knew how to get there, but if you've ever broken into Hyjal and found yourself among crypts that lead nowhere, you touch Classic's version of lost content. Share if you ever stumbled into those silent halls. You're not the only one who's seen the ghosts of what could have been. In Classic World of Warcraft, before the Burning Crusade expansion introduced full functionality to the Caverns of Time, that zone was basically a beautiful, empty shell. Players saw only swirling temporal portals and Nozdormu, but a few intrepid explorers discovered something deeper, an unused interior room. By using an exploit, it was possible to bypass invisible barriers and slip into a hidden developer staging room, not accessible through normal gameplay, and certainly not supported by any patch or expansion. Inside, there was nothing but floating platforms, empty geometry, and unfinished layouts more typical of a blueprint than a zone. Developers likely used this area as a testbed for layout or event placement, and it remained in the game files, untouched by quests or art assets. This room isn't documented anywhere, because officially it didn't exist. But back in the day, data and exploration footage confirm that it's there. It's a glimpse into WoW's development process, a leftover prefab world waiting to be erased that still quietly whispers of content never meant for players. Some explorers speculate that it was meant for future expansions, maybe a portal hub in a prototype layout, but that was scrapped before Classic's release. What remained was this small naked space, a ghost of a design decision. If you ever felt like you were standing in a developer's workspace rather than the fantasy world, that's exactly what this is. Not intended, not lore-rich, but real nonetheless. Hold up, those mysterious islands southeast of Tanaris? They're real, and they're tied to one of the most legendary quests in World of Warcraft. These are the South Seas Islands, two tiny, deserted landmasses not marked on any official map. You could see them from the shore near Land's End Beach, but getting there was a nightmare. Only the most creative explorers, armed with swim speed potions, water walking, levitate spells, or even soulstone tricks, could reach them before exhaustion set in. Once you landed, what did you find? No quests, at least not directly. In fact, before the Anchiraj Gates event, these islands were completely barren, except for a single message in a bottle on the northern island that read, "What are you doing here?" That item was later removed, though its shadow reportedly remained visible. Then there's lore tie-in. These islands are referenced in the Draconic for Dummies quest chain, part of the Scepter of the Sands epic journey. Completing a side quest for Meredith, the Mermaiden grants you a swim speed buff, precisely so you can brave the fatigue and get to this remote location. It's a hidden narrative breadcrumb, not meant for most adventurers. Players on Classic-era forums still remember these islands as the mysterious place you travel to for a weird quest. So yes, these islands are real, deserted, cryptic, and tied to one of the most obscure and daring quest chains in World of Warcraft. All of these places were no Easter eggs. They're evidence of battlegrounds that never were, quest ideas that never launched, or zones abandoned mid-build. They show us that under every zone lies unfinished lore waiting to be stumbled upon. I'd be humbled if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.